Olu Asekun's podcast. As you can see, I was rushing. I was just coming from the court, and we have a lot of updates today. Olu Asekun's podcast. So, you are welcome. I was rushing. I was just coming from the court, and we have a lot of updates today. Okay, is it okay now? Let me also ensure it's in silent. Okay, it is. Okay. Today we are discussing immigration update under the new administration. So welcome to our podcast. This is Dr. Olu Asekun. Wherever you are, please join us. Call your friends, family, colleagues. We are in a very, very interesting time, and it is very important that we are updated daily. We all know that this week marks the entrance of President Donald Trump, the beginning of his second term in office, second administration. And we have had so much in the news, and a lot is going on, in fact, by the minute. Actually, today's podcast, I'm going to handle it in a different way because of the inflow of information that we have, and it's a continuous process. In fact, as I was rushing down to the office from court, there was some news coming to me that one of the agencies of the government had been shut down, that the president gave them till 5 p.m. today to resign, for all employees to resign. I don't know the details yet, but a lot is going on, as I said. But for the purpose of today's podcast, we are going to limit ourselves to President Trump's executive orders that affect immigration. We are going to limit it to executive orders that affect immigration, and we have a lot of updates. So, again, please, we are starting a new regime. Invite your friends, family, members, colleagues at work. We are in for an interesting time. And of course, we are also in for a lot of legal challenges. In fact, President Trump was sworn in on Monday, and today is Wednesday. And I can tell you authoritatively that as of today, at least 7 lawsuits has been filed. In fact, I have one of them here with me. I have the complaint. How can I show this? Where can they see it? Are they able to see it? Yes, I have one of the lawsuits with me. About 7 different lawsuits has been filed. Is anything showing? It's not showing any information. It's just plain. Okay, yeah. So this one was filed on Monday evening. In fact, the filing receipt shows Tuesday morning. So apparently, as the president was making announcements on Monday, some lawyers were preparing, putting a lawsuit together. So by Tuesday morning, multiple lawsuits has been filed. And in fact, some were filed this morning, and especially regarding the executive order that affect birthright citizenship, a lot of lawsuit has been filed on that one. I will go into all the details, but again, we are starting this today. This is probably our first podcast since the new administration, so we are starting a new regime today. So I want to give you time to invite your friends so that everybody will be a part of this. This is an interesting time. I think I sent something to print, which I probably didn't bring here. If you can just quickly help me bring it. A flyer from AILA, American Immigration Lawyers Association. I sent it to print. I want to also refer to it during this podcast. So, if you have questions, you can start sending them in. But of course, I'm going to go into a lot of information before we start addressing questions. But in the meantime, if you have questions, you can send them in while we... Oh, thank you. As I said, today's podcast is going to take a different format. I'm going to do something that I usually don't do because I want to be accurate. So I'll be doing a lot of readings because I've printed so many materials from what is going on. So the first thing, we are limiting ourselves in this podcast to the executive orders that has to do with immigration, that has to do with immigration benefit or Department of Homeland Security, Department of State, or anything that affects immigration. That is where we are starting from. We can extend it later, but for today, that is where we are starting from. So on Monday, when the new president was sworn in, he came up with a barrage of executive orders. But the ones we'll be discussing today, basically, we'll be discussing 9 of them, 9 of the executive orders. So the very first executive order that we'll be discussing, please, I need a pen. The very first executive order that we'll be discussing, thank you, is the President Executive Order reversing every immigration-related executive order made by President Biden. The executive order reversing, just a minute, I want to... Yes. Executive order reversing every of President Biden executive order on immigration policy. Now, why is this important? The reason it is very, very important, and I want my listeners to pay attention today, because I know that a lot has been going on online on social media since the new president comes into office. But I want you to be able to separate fact from fiction. And that is why I want you to pay attention to everything I'm saying today. Once the President Biden's immigration policies have been rescinded or has been suspended or has been reversed, not even suspended, reversed, the implication of that is that on immigration, one, as I said, I was just coming from court this morning. I saw it play out in court this morning. The assistant chief counsel that was at the immigration court against me this morning declined any form of what do you call it, prosecutorial discretion, motion to dismiss, any form of agreement. Remember, when Donald Trump was in office, ICE was specifically ordered not to agree with any lawyer on any case pending at the immigration court. And that was one of the reasons why immigration court was flooded. And we are still dealing with the backlog. So when President Biden came, he signed an executive order and he put in a policy where only people with a criminal record are considered priority. So all those things are no more. So if you are in removal proceedings today, if you don't have a relief, please find a way to get a relief. Forget about getting your case administratively closed. Forget about having your case dismissed in court. All those things are no longer possible, effective January 20th. And I can tell you, having come from court this morning, ICE have already started implementing that policy. I saw it firsthand today. They have started implementing that policy. So we are going back to the first Trump era. No agreement in court. That is the first thing. That is the implication of that order. And of course, it is likely, I'm not sure yet, we are waiting for USCIS, but it is likely that we may go back to the era of Form 944, Declaration of Self-Sufficiency. That was part of first Donald Trump administration that was rescinded by Biden. Now, Donald Trump is going back to that order. So we may be, if you need to file an application for adjustment, you better do it now before USCIS comes up with that policy. As of today, the 944 has been taken off of USCIS website, but it may be reinstated because the policy is already in effect. So if you have a pending application for adjustment, my brother, my sister listening to me, this is the right time to file it before they introduce those new policies. For those who were here at the time, the 944 requires an applicant to provide his or her background information, including credit record, credit history. For those who are married, you have to, your credit history is going to show all the addresses that you have lived, all those things. They go into even what kind of qualification do you have in your home country, all those things. A lot of new things are coming back to play. So if you have a pending application, please don't delay. That is the first one. The second executive order that we are going to be talking about today is the executive order enhancing visa vetting and screening. Again, what that means is that to get a US visa now is going to be tougher. To get a US visa is going to be more difficult. I don't care what country you are applying from. According to this executive order, the president specifically ordered the Department of State to review all applications for visa, all applications for either visiting visa, temporary visa, immigrant visa, all kinds of visa. So they are going to go through extended screening. I don't know what to advise on this one because everybody is going to be affected. So they are going to go through extended screening. So just be prepared to see that happen. The next executive order is the executive order deploying the military to the southern border. Now, up till now, the military is not considered part of immigration enforcement. Immigration enforcement is exclusively the duty of Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers, ICE officers. But now, the president is ordering the U.S. military to get involved in the southern border. So that is another thing you need to be aware of. So the next executive order that we'll be talking about is the one executive order suspending for refugee admissions. So now what this means is that this one primarily affects people that are applying for asylum from outside the U.S. You see, refugee status actually covers asylum, but when you are applying from outside, you are considered a refugee. But if you are applying from inside the U.S., you are considered asylum, seeking asylum. So apparently, all the people that are applying for asylum from outside the U.S., usually people who are in maybe, what do you call this temporary camp where people seek refuge whenever there is cancer? Huh? Yeah, okay, is it refugee camp? Okay, whether you are applying for refugee camp or all those things. So there is suspension to all applications for asylum. And of course, those who are applying through southern border, the app has been shut down. The app that applicants use to schedule an appointment, that app has been shut down. So even those who already have an appointment to apply for asylum or to seek refugee status, all those things have been shut down. So if you are outside the United States, as of today, you can no longer apply for refugee status, at least for now. Maybe until the court decide, because this is one of the cases that has been filed against the administration, that they do not have the power to do that. But again, we are waiting for the court to see how the court will decide on that. But if you are inside, I believe that you can still submit your application for asylum if you are inside the U.S. This only affects people applying for asylum from outside the United States. That is that. The next one that we'll be talking about is the executive order designating cartel as foreign terrorist organization. I really don't have much to say about that because the truth of the matter is that this will only affect people who are applying for asylum from South America, countries like is it Bolivia, those Venezuela, Honduras, all those South American countries. Those are the ones that will be basically be affected by this one because I foresee, I'm not God, I don't know what is good, but I foresee a situation where this executive order will actually increase gang operation because the cartels, they are known for fighting back whenever you bring up issues like this. So again, people from South American are the one mainly affected by that. The next executive order that we'll be discussing is the one executive order on trade with Canada and Mexico. Now, there is what we used to call NAFTA, North America Free Trade Agreement. Now, I think it was during last Trump administration that he decided to renegotiate the North America Free Trade Agreement. Now, the agreement reached during his first term, that agreement is going to expire next year in 2026. Now, ahead of renegotiation now, the president has signed an executive order called America First. America First. Of course, this means that he's going to impose tariffs and all other things on Canada and Mexico. Again, we don't know how this is going to play out, but of course, it's going to affect immigration because one of the benefits of NAFTA is ability of Canadian citizens to come and work in the United States, to be able to get employment in the United States under NAFTA. So this may impact that. That is how it will affect immigration. So the next one that we'll be discussing is the executive order on gender identity. On gender identity. You see, on social media, I see that a lot of people are happy with this, especially people from my country, Nigeria, when Donald Trump said that going forward is going to be the policy of the United States to to recognize only two genders, male and female. A lot of people applauded it and all of that. However, I'm going to talk about the implication on immigration. Now, remember, there are people who have pending application for asylum that is based on the LGBTQ. There are people who have application for adjustment of status that is based on marriage between same-sex couple. Now, with this executive order, how is immigration going to treat that? I can tell you that as recently as last week, I attended an interview at immigration office with a same-sex couple, same-sex petitioner, same-sex beneficiary. The good thing is that application was approved on Friday. When was the interview? Was the interview on Wednesday? I attended the interview last week, Wednesday, and the application, was it Wednesday or Thursday?
Now that I said that.
Yeah, I think it was Thursday. Yeah, I was in court on Wednesday. Yes. It was on Thursday. Yeah, I attended the interview on Wednesday, same-sex couple, and luckily, the adjustment application, the green card, was approved on Friday. So the question now is, how is this going to impact people with similar pending application? People who who have a pending application for asylum because they are gay and they are being treated badly, or people who have already married same-sex partner and they have a pending application, or even people who are planning to file a new application, because the Supreme Court has actually ruled that same-sex couple, they have to be recognized by the United States. So I don't see how President Trump's executive order will overrule a Supreme Court decision. there's a Supreme Court decision that actually mandated the United States military to recognize same-sex couple in the service. So how is all this going to play out? Well, we are at the beginning of the movie, so we don't know how a lot of things are going to play out right now. But I can tell you that this is one of the cases that has been challenged in court. As I said earlier, as of today, to my knowledge, up to 7 different lawsuits has been filed against this new administration, concerning many of these executive orders that has been signed. So, executive order impacting gender identity, that is the last one that I just talked about. Now, the next one that I'm going to talk about is the executive order on enforcement of U.S. immigration laws. Again, this is one of the most dangerous executive orders signed by President Trump on Monday. Executive order on the enforcement of U.S. immigration laws. So that executive order primarily empowers ICE officers to arrest anyone they suspected of immigration violation, either at their home, children in school, religious places of worship, religious organizations. So ICE officer can go in and arrest anybody they suspected of violating immigration law. This is going to be interesting because this is going to actually impact, I can tell you based on experience, this will actually impact a lot of U.S. citizens. I foresee a situation where U.S. citizens are going to be mistakenly arrested and perceived as foreigners. I perceive a situation where permanent residents are going to be mistakenly arrested, especially people who don't carry things around. I mean, I'm a U.S. citizen. I don't carry American passport around. I don't carry anything. The only thing I have on me is my driver's license. So there are going to be people who may not even have their driver's license handy at the time they encounter immigration. This is where the dangers of all these things. But again, this is one of those executive orders that has been challenged in court. Lawsuit has been filed against all of this, but I just need to bring it to your attention that right now, there is no more security, or there is no guarantee that even if you are in church, ICE officers cannot come after you. Or if you are in school, places that were hitherto or previously considered sacred places, that the sanctity or the sacredness of those places has been removed by President Trump. However, let me say this. Yesterday, on this particular one, the Department of Homeland Security announced that ICE officers will use common sense in the implementation of this executive order. That is, we are now going to be at the discretion of ICE officers to use common sense, whether to go into the church to go and arrest people, or whether to go into schools to go and arrest children, that ICE officers are going to use their discretion. But again, this is a very, very dangerous precedent that the president is setting. And let me also say this. If you are in democratic states, at least temporarily, you are safe, because as at yesterday, at least in California and in a few other states, they announced that they will not cooperate with ICE in the arrest and detention of people at sanctuary places where they consider the sanctity, including churches, schools, and all of that, that they will not cooperate with ICE in the enforcement of this executive order. But again, DHS itself has announced yesterday that ICE officers will use common sense in the implementation of this executive order. I hope and pray that they do that. Now, the next one is the executive order In fact, this is probably the most interesting one, and I'm sure that a lot of my listeners will be willing to know what happened to this. That is the executive order on birthright citizenship. Executive order on birthright citizenship. Now, before I go further, I want to give my personal opinion. As an American and as a lawyer, I can tell you, except something drastic happen, I don't see this order being implemented. Because this is a constitutional provision. The Constitution says that anyone that is born in the United States is a U.S. citizen. That is what the Constitution says. Now, can we amend the Constitution? Yes. But can the Constitution be amended by executive order? No. Capital no. And I can guarantee, at least in my maybe 32 years of legal practice, I don't foresee any court supporting Donald Trump on this particular one. It's going to require the amendment of the Constitution. Now, let me say this. I'm still expressing my personal opinion. Like I said, so many cases have been filed. I will go into that, but I'm talking about my personal opinion right now. To amend the American Constitution, it will require a two-thirds majority in the House of Representatives. The Republicans do not have two-thirds. It will require a two-thirds majority in the Senate, United States Senate. The Republicans do not have two-thirds. Assuming that they even have two-thirds in the House of Rep and the Senate, in order to amend the Constitution, it will require two-thirds of the United States to pass it locally in their own local law-making entities. Now, how many states do we have in the U.S.? 50. Please, can you quickly use your calculator? What is the two-thirds of 50? It should be around 35. Two-thirds of 50. Is it 23? No, just use your calculator. Two-thirds of 50. I mean, we have 50 states.
50 divided by 3,
33. Oh, you guys, let me use my own calculator. 33. Okay. Now, we have 50 states. So for the Constitution to be amended, every state at least have to table this and debate it locally in their state. And 33 states in the United States, we have to pass it, that they agree that the Constitution should be amended. And I can tell you, the Republicans do not have 33 states. There are no 33 Republican states in the United States today. So I don't see, this is one of the major reasons why it is extremely difficult for America to resolve gun violence. This is why they were not able to find permanent solution to gun problem in the United States, because it is a constitutional requirement. The Constitution gives every American the right to bear arms, the right to defend themselves, the right to carry gun. It is a constitutional provision. And that inability to amend the Constitution, that is why that gun problem has not been resolved today. So I don't see how it's going to be different when it comes to birthright citizenship. The Constitution is very clear. It is unambiguous. Everyone born in the United States is a citizen of the United States. So in order for that to change, I don't see how an executive order can change it. And my personal opinion is that this is just a political stunt by the president. However, they will attempt to enforce it, but as of today, as I said, as at the last count that I know of, which was last night, 15 attorney generals of 15 states have already joined the lawsuit to challenge the president on this birthright citizenship. As at today, a temporary restraining order has been filed as at today, restraining the president from even talking about the birthright citizenship or the executive order relating to birthright citizenship. no decision, at least before I came to this podcast this morning, no decision has been made yet, to the best of my knowledge. I don't know if any decision has been taken while I started this podcast. But before I started, no decision has been made. But a restraining order, a temporary restraining order has been filed. Request for a temporary restraining order has been filed in this case. And like I said, as of today, about 7 different organizations, including what do you call this organization? Is it LS? No, it's not LSU. This one that they have a lot of bodies in them. I can't, something LUSU or something. Oh, what is this organization? Anyway, I will remember. The attorney generals, they have filed their own. The ACLU, that's what I wanted to remember. Yes, ACLU was the first one that filed a lawsuit on this issue. ACLU is one of those organizations that defend people's rights in the United States. So they are a body. Of course, they also have some other sub-organizations among them. But ACLU was the first one. In fact, ACLU actually filed their own lawsuit challenging this executive order on Monday. They filed it on Monday. And on Tuesday, New Hampshire Indonesian Community Support, League of United Latin American Citizens, and Make the Road New York, they all filed lawsuit in the United States District Court for the District of New Hampshire. And there's another lawsuit that was filed in Washington State. Another lawsuit has been filed at the federal court in Washington State. So multiple lawsuits are on these ones as I speak. And like I said, there is also a motion for temporary restraining order that has been filed, and I'm sure that the court is probably going to be ruling on that one before the end of this week. So we are going to be updating you as we go, because we know that this is an interesting time. Now, the last thing I want to say before I start taking questions, American Immigration Lawyers Association, of course, they are aware all the fear of all the things going on and all of that. So they came up with some recommendations. And any lawyer who is a member of American Immigration Lawyers Association should be able to have access to these recommendations. So for those who are illegal or those who are afraid that they may be arrested and all of that, so I'm going to read to you the recommendations from American Immigration Lawyers Association. This recommendation is titled, Know Your Right If ICE Visit Your Home. So I want to read it for you. Know your right if ICE visit your home. Now, it says, all people living in the United States, including undocumented immigrants, have certain U.S. constitutional rights. If you are undocumented and ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent, knock on your door, know that you have the following rights. So I'm reading it, so I'm not taking anything out of it or rephrasing it. This is the way American Immigration Lawyers Association sent it to all members last night. So the first thing, you do not have to open your door. You do not have to open your door. You do not have to open the door or let the officers into your home unless they have a valid search warrant signed by a judge. Please know that it is not mandatory that you must open your door to ICE officers if they knock on your door, except if they show you a valid search warrant signed by a judge. Now, NTA, notice to appear, is not a warrant. Notice to appear is not a warrant. So if that is all they are showing you, and I don't even see how they can show you that, because NTA cannot be issued until somebody has been processed. The information has been taken. Biometrics have been taken. So NTA can only be issued after all of that. So if they come to your home, if they knock, you don't have to open the door. It is within your right as a human being. It doesn't matter whether you are undocumented, you are American, it does not matter. As a human being, it is within your right to not open the door for them. Now, as I said, ICE deportation warrant is not the same as search warrant. For anybody to require you to forcefully open your door, they need a search warrant. If all they are producing to you is a ICE deportation warrant, that is not the same thing as a search warrant. So you have a right not to open your door. You have that right. Now, if that is all they are bringing, they cannot legally come into your house unless you verbally agree. So this verbal authorization is what you should withhold. It is within your right. It does not matter whether you have citizenship or you are undocumented. You have a right not to open your door if they knock on your door. Now, the second thing, you have the right to remain silent. If for any reason, because they do that, I mean, I remember they did that during Donald Trump's first administration. If they knock on your door and you refuse to open, they can hang around and wait until somebody opens the door, and because, I mean, you are not going to be indoor forever. But of course, if you know for sure that they are there, you can stay indoor. Even if you have to stay there 24 hours, they are not going to wait outside for 24 hours. And if they do, let them wait. So if you can stay indoors, you do it. If you know that they are around, do everything you can to prevent them from having a conversation with you. Now, if for any reason they eventually have access to you, you have a right to remain silent. You do not need to speak to the immigration officers or answer any questions. Even what is your name? All you need to tell them is that I want to exercise my right to remain silent. That is all you need to alter. Can you please tell us this? I want to exercise my right to remain silent. In fact, if you are listening to this and you are our client, apart from this information from American Immigration Lawyers Association, we are going to give you some what are we called what do you normally this term like an emergency hotline to call if anything like this happen or if you suspect something is going on. So we give you that. But for now, just listen to this advice from American Immigration Lawyers Association. You have the right to remain silent. You do not need to speak to the immigration officers or answer any questions. If you are asked where you are born or how you entered the United States, you may refuse to answer or remain silent. If you choose to remain silent, say, I choose to remain silent. What is your name? I choose to remain silent. Where were you born? I choose to remain silent. It is within your right as a human being. You do not need to be an American. You do not need to be legal in order to do that. I choose to remain silent. That is all you need to say. Now, you may also show a Know Your Right card. Again, for our clients, we are going to produce this. So you show them. I mean, what the card is going to say is the same thing that you are going to say verbally. But you know that for some people, some of us who have accent, the moment you speak, they may be able to deduce one or two things from your accent. So if you don't even want to give them that opportunity at all, you may not even say anything. So for those who have that card, and even for those who are listening to me now, you can have a card where you just type, I choose to remain silent. So, what is your name? You show them the card. You don't say anything. Where are you from? You show them the card that says, I choose to remain silent. So that way, they will not even have any reason to listen to your conversation, to be able to assess your accent, to know whether you are born here or not. You have that right to give them that card. So, The next thing, according to American Immigration Lawyers Association, again, before I go into the next topic, in that card, if you are going to give them the card that says, I choose to remain silent, you can also add to it something like, I wish to speak to a lawyer. I choose to remain silent and I wish to speak to a lawyer. You can just, so if you don't want to say anything, what is your name? You give them the card. They read it there. I choose to remain silent and I need to talk to a lawyer. So you showed every question they asked, you just show them the card. So that is what you need to do. So the next thing, you may refuse to show identity document that say what country you are from. Do not show any false document and do not lie, because these are some of the things that can complicate things. For example, do not tell them I'm a citizen if you are not. The best thing, don't say anything. I choose to remain silent. That is it. Even that card is the best option. Have the card handy. Have it in your pocket at all times. If they accost you anywhere, what is your name? I choose to remain silent. Can I see your ID? I choose to remain silent and I want to talk to a lawyer. That's it. Don't give them any ID. Don't give them any passport. Don't give them any information. But at the same time, don't lie. Because if you lie to them, that will complicate things. And when lawyers eventually get into the picture, it will be more difficult to solve the problem. So please don't lie to them, but don't talk to them. That is within your right not to talk to them at all. So that is that. Now, the next thing, according to American Immigration Lawyers Association, you have the right to speak to a lawyer. If you are detained or taken into custody, you have the right to seek an attorney and to receive a phone call from your attorney. Ask for a copy of the detainee handbook to understand the detention center's rules. If you are arrested and you are detained for any reason, again, insist on talking to a lawyer. Tell them, I wish to remain silent, but insist on talking to a lawyer. If they detain you, every detention center, they have rules and regulations. They have guidelines. They have a handbook, detainee handbook. So request for a copy of the detainee handbook. The detainee handbook will further tell you what your rights and limitations are. But in any case, insist on talking to a lawyer. That is within your right. You do not have to be a U.S. citizen to be able to talk to a lawyer. You do not have to be a U.S. citizen to be able to remain silent. So tell them or write it out. I choose to remain silent. I want to talk to a lawyer. So it is within your right to talk to a lawyer. The next thing, according to American Immigration Lawyers Association, even if you do not have a lawyer, you may tell the immigration officer that you want to speak to one. Again, if you don't have a lawyer as at the time you are arrested, you can still tell them that I need to look for a lawyer. I need to speak to a lawyer. So it is within your right. If you have a lawyer, you have the right to talk to them. If you have a signed Form G20, that is notice of appearance, which shows you have a lawyer, give it to an officer. Again, for those of our clients who are interested who are in this position and they feel they may face this challenge, please contact our office so that we give you a copy of the Form G28 along with the card that will show I do not wish to talk to anyone and I wish to remain silent and I wish to speak to a lawyer. And then you can now give them a copy of Form G28 showing that you have a lawyer representing you. At that stage, the officer will be forced to contact your lawyer. Now, if you do not have a lawyer, ask an immigration officer for a list of pro bono lawyers. Again, immigration law allows for pro bono lawyers. Pro bono means lawyers that work for free, lawyers or a reduced fee, lawyers who may not charge you, who may not, they are a list. I mean, for example, what is this association that normally provide pro bono? Catholic Charity. Example is Catholic Charity. There are so many organizations that do it, but again, that is your choice whether you want to go for a pro bono attorney or you want to go for an attorney you feel can represent you. So that is your choice. But again, if you do not have a lawyer, ask the immigration officer for a list of pro bono lawyers. Now, the next one, according to American Immigration Lawyers Association, you also have the right to contact your consulate. The consulate may be able to assist you in locating a lawyer. So wherever country you are from, you can tell them that you want to contact your consulate. So once they dial the number of your consulate, you speak to your consulate officer and tell them that you are being detained and you need an opportunity to be able to get a lawyer. So they can help you to hire a lawyer if you do not have one. Now, the next one, according to American Immigration Lawyers Association, you can refuse to sign any paperwork until you have had the opportunity to speak to a lawyer. If they give you documents to sign, just tell them, I wish to remain silent. I need to talk to a lawyer. I decline to sign this document until I'm able to talk to a lawyer. I decline to sign this document until I am able to talk to a lawyer. The next one, according to American Immigration Lawyers Association, if you choose to sign something without speaking to a lawyer, be sure you understand exactly what the document says and means before you sign. That is what American immigration lawyers recommended, but I will add to it that do not sign any document until you have spoken to a lawyer. Do not sign document, because this is what we see from time to time. There are people, in fact, there was a case of somebody that I was working on a motion to reopen. I felt that the previous lawyer that represented him did not do a good job. So I was doing all these things. But as I normally do, or as we normally do in our office, when cases that we are not sure of the fact, we are confronted with such cases, we normally request for copies of record under the Freedom of Information Act. That is the first thing we do. So in this particular case, when we got the result of the FOIA, we now realize that this client signed all these things, and these things were explained to him. The place where he signed, they wrote there that this information in this document has been explained to this person, has been translated to him, has been explained, and he understood it and agreed to sign voluntarily. And this client signed without an iota of what he was signing. So we see it all the time. So my own personal advice, if you are in this situation, do not sign anything until you have spoken to a lawyer. Just tell them, it is within your right to get a lawyer. I choose to remain silent. I choose to have an attorney represent me. I do not wish to sign any document until I've spoken to a lawyer. Now, the next one, according to American Immigration Lawyers Association, you have the right to speak, to request to make a phone call to family members or friends for free if you do not have enough money in your account after 10 days. You have the right to request to speak to a family member, to make a phone call. That is within your right for free. If you can put money into your account, it will be much, much faster. But if you do not have money, after 10 days, you have the right to do it for free, to request to speak to somebody. So now, I see that we have spent a lot of time on this. I'm going to see how many questions I can answer before our time is over. I see that so many questions have come up. So let me start to answer them as quickly as I can. But I believe that probably most of the questions will have been answered from all the analysis I've been doing in the last 50 minutes. Okay, the first question. Good afternoon and thank you for joining. Oh, this is from us. Okay. The first question, my naturalization interview is in few weeks. How does all this affect citizenship? What advice can you give me for my upcoming interview? The Alexander, is that a different person? Okay, so let me answer this one. Well, what I will tell you is that right now, this does not affect naturalization application. It's going to affect it later, but not for people who have already submitted their application. Now, how is it going to affect it later? If we recall that during President Trump's first term, he introduced a more difficult and more complex naturalization interview questions. He introduced a more difficult question. However, when President Biden came, President Biden signed an executive order to reverse that citizenship question back to the original one. So, because Donald Trump has signed an executive order rescinding every executive order signed by President Biden relating to immigration, I know that citizenship is going to be part of it. However, it's going to affect newly filed application. Any application that was filed probably after January 20th, after the executive order came into place. That is the one that it will be affected. So for now, just continue, study for your citizenship interview, be prepared, and make sure that put your house in order, make sure that everything goes well, so that you just go through this one time and not have any problem. But it's not going to affect your citizenship interview or application. The next question. Good afternoon. What of the NAFTA visa? Will it be cancelled? Oh, apparently this person didn't join us from the beginning. Yes, NAFTA is part of the executive order that I've discussed previously.
He did, but he placed the question before you started speaking.
Okay, yeah. So the NAFTA renegotiation is coming up next month, and of course, the president has already signed an executive order that is called America First. So they are going to renegotiate the NAFTA. But however, this executive order is going to be effective next year during the negotiation. So if you have a current NAFTA visa or plan to do it, you can still do it before the new one will come into place. So because the new one is still going to come into place in 2026. So we still have 1 year to go. The next question. Sorry, I'm a bit late. So going forward, we did delay green card application for marriage-based green card. No, it's not about delay. It's going to be enhanced processing. He has already signed an executive order. If you listen to part of what I did from the beginning, I listed some of the executive orders, especially the ones that affected immigration, 9 of them that affected immigration. I discussed them extensively. And of course, one of them is the enhanced processing. That was when I talked about probably they may reintroduce the Form 944, Declaration of Self-Sufficiency, and all of those things. It definitely is going to affect new application. I don't think it will affect pending application. I believe it will only affect newly filed application after the effectiveness of this day. But as of today, USCIS has not updated their website to include Form 944. Remember, even the executive order may have been signed, I don't see USCIS retroactively implementing it. I think whenever they are ready, they are going to give a start date. Effective from this day, any new application must be accompanied with all these new requirements. But for now, in my opinion, I don't think any application that is currently pending will be affected. You do not have anything to worry about if you have a pending application. But if you are planning to file in the future, yes, you may be subject to the enhanced processing and all the additional forms and all of that. The next question. Good afternoon, Dr. Asekun. How does it affect employment-based green card? Oh, yes, it's going to affect everything. Let me tell you, even before Trump came in, sometimes last year, USCIS introduced a new guideline regarding the adjudication of EB1 and EB2. They realized that they have been approving EB2 for people who did not meet the requirement. In fact, I can tell you for free, as an immigration attorney with experience, there were people who came here to consult with me, and I told them that they are not eligible, they are not qualified for EB2, National Interest Waiver. But they went ahead and filed it anyway and got approved. So USCIS approved a lot of people who are not qualified. At the end of the day, they realized it and they started making the adjustment. They started that since last year. That does not really have anything to do with President Trump. That has started since last year when they realized that they were not following the guidelines. Because by the special grace of God in this office, I have immigration practice manual, USCIS practice manual. Can you please quickly grab practice manual for me on my shelf? USCIS practice manual. And that is what I follow in all the filings that I do. So there were people that I realized that they did not meet that requirement. But again, USCIS approved it for a lot of people who did not meet the requirement. Now, to go back to your question, with Donald Trump coming in, based on what I saw in 2016, it is possible that many of these people, especially those whose green card has not been approved, many of them may have their I-140 NIW, may have them revisited. I've seen this happen before during Donald Trump's first administration. There were people whose I-140 NIW were approved, and then USCIS revisited it, and they issued notice of intent to revoke. Like I said, I've seen that before. It is likely. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I can't take it off the table, especially in view of the many people that were not eligible but were approved by USCIS. So it is possible, if you have not received your physical green card and you do not meet that requirement, it is a possibility that USCIS may revisit it. Please help me show it in front of the camera. Yeah, I normally use USCIS Adjudicators Field Manual. This is the manual that is given to every USCIS officers to use in the adjudication of immigration benefit. So every immigration application, they have to follow the guidelines here. But like I said, for some years between 2020 during COVID and 2023, many NIWs were approved without USCIS following this guideline. Again, if you have received your green card, I guarantee you have already escaped it. Even if they found out that you are not qualified, there's nothing they can do about it. So that one is done. You've gotten it. But if you have not received your green card, you may still be at risk of your NIW approval being revoked. So that is that question. The next question.
Well, she sent a follow-up later saying, what about EB4?
Well, okay. Is that the same person?
Yes.
Okay, now as for EB4, again, the EB4, I don't see EB4 being affected, because if you are talking about EB4, you are talking about religious workers. For those ones, I don't see them being affected, because even throughout the adjudication of EB4 was never affected. That glitch, or whatever you want to call it, happened only, to the best of my knowledge, only happened with EB2 National Interest Waiver. So the only thing for EB4 is that, of course, EB4 has a dedicated office. There's only one office in the entire United States where EB4 petitions are processed, and that office is in California. Because in 2009, there was a review of EB4 procedures where new guidelines extended and complicated guidelines were released. That was when the issue of site inspection was introduced. That was the issue when immigration started enforcing the use of the word solely, meaning that you cannot do anything outside the employment with your religious employer. So they have been enforcing all of that. So considering that there is nothing missing, there's nothing to add to it, so I don't see EB4 being affected by this new enhancement. So even in 2016, when Donald Trump won the presidency, they did not make any change to EB4 because, like I said, the law regarding EB4 was reviewed in 2009, and they put a lot of strict requirements there. So I don't see anything affecting EB4 this time around. So the next question: is the administration planning any changes to the deferred action for childhood arrivals? Well, whoever sent this question is not current, because even before Donald Trump administration came in, a district court, federal court in Dallas has already ruled that DACA is unconstitutional, that the president did not have the authority, that is referring to President Obama, that the president do not have the power to grant DACA. So DACA has already been declared illegal. So that is not something that is current as of today. However, the court, they kind of made some provision for people who already have DACA, that the government will have to decide what they want to do with people that has already been approved. But of course, no new application for DACA can be submitted because DACA has already been declared illegal by a federal court in Texas. So that one has nothing to do with Donald Trump. The court has already ruled on that. The next question: I applied for asylum 5 years ago and yet to be invited, and my family was given work authorization, which we have been renewing up till now. What is my stand and what are the options available to me and my family? Well, right now, we are still in an unknown territory. As I said, part of the lawsuit that has been filed has to do with the one that challenged the declaration of recognition of only two sexes, that is male and female. So that declaration, that executive order has been challenged in court. Until the court decide, I cannot say here authoritatively how this is going to impact pending asylum application or even future asylum application. However, if your case is not based on gender related, if it is not based on LGBTQ, the only thing I will tell you is that because of the executive order talking about let me read that particular executive order. There is one executive order that is the executive order enhancing vetting and screening. So that one, definitely every application, the processing and adjudication of every application will be enhanced. So definitely it will be enhanced. So what that means is that you need to have more evidence. You need to be able to prepare. You need to be prepared to prove your case so that the immigration will not have any doubt. Everything is going to be enhanced. So that is the only way it will affect you if your application is not based on gender basis. However, if it is based on gender, we may need to wait for the outcome of the court before we will proceed. Because some of these lawsuits, they are also requesting a temporary restraining order. If those things are granted, then the status quo will remain. But if the temporary restraining order is not granted, then the executive order may go into effect right away. So again, there's a lot of unknowns right now, and I don't want to give you information that I'm not 100% sure of. So just continue to pray, and of course, go back to look at the story that you submitted. Make sure that all your informations are accurate. Make sure that you gather supporting evidence. Depending on the case that you are presenting, make sure you get supporting evidence. So that is all you need to do now before they invite you for interview. Let me say this, because one of the executive order actually rescinded all the executive orders that Biden signed concerning immigration. Let me tell you, one of President Trump's executive order at the time is one of the things that created problem for asylum application, that created the backlog. That is what is called last in, first out procedure. So it is possible, I'm not certain, but it is possible that immigration may go back to that policy of last in, first out. It is possible that may go back into it, because that was one of the President Trump's executive order in 2016. And of course, because he has reinstated all those executive orders right now by this new executive order, so it is possible that immigration may go back into that. But again, even if they do, that will only affect new application. It cannot affect application that has been pending for 5 years. So I believe that is the last question for now. Or do you have any question that I'm here to answer? That is the last question that I see here. And I also see that we are actually beyond our time. Because this is a new territory, this is a new administration, we are going to continue with the update on immigration update under the new administration next week. We are going to continue part 2, so that between now and next week, we will be able to update you on all the development. Especially, I am curious. I want to know the outcome of this motion for temporary restraining order filed in the federal court against this executive order. So I want to see. So we'll be able to give you update next week by God's grace. So we are going to do immigration update under new administration part 2. We are going to continue next week. So until then, we hope to see you again. Remember to invite your family, friends, colleagues at work. We are in a new territory, and we pray that this new administration will benefit us, no matter where you are, no matter your position, no matter your immigration status. We will benefit positively from this new administration by God's grace. Hope to see you next week. Until then, this is Dr. Olu Asekun here.